So what is political theory? You might think it's some dusty old college course, but what if I told you it's actually something we all do, often without even realizing it? Let's dig in and see how.
All right, first things first, we're going to start with a pretty bold claim that every single one of us, yeah, you included, is already a political theorist. So how is that even possible?
I mean, just think about it. Have you ever gotten into one of those arguments with friends or family? You know the ones, about what's fair, or what democracy really means, or what true freedom actually looks like. Well, those heated discussions, they're not just arguments. They're the very building blocks of political thinking.
So, yeah, congratulations, you're a political theorist. Seriously, the second you start grappling with these huge ideas and using them to make a point, you're doing the work of political theory. You're actually helping to shape how we all think about our shared world.
Okay, so if we're all doing it, what makes it a formal academic thing? You know, what's the difference? Let's try to get a little more specific and draw some lines in the sand.
You know, sometimes the best way to understand what something is to understand what it's not. So on one side, you've got political science. Think of it as the what is. It's descriptive. It uses data, polls, all that stuff to explain reality, like how people vote or how institutions work. Then on the other side, you have political philosophy. That's the what ought to be. It's all about ideals and values. You know, what would the most just society look like? Political theory, well, it lives in that fascinating space right in between the two.
It really thrives right there in the middle, in a space that the theorist Sheldon Wallen called vision. And it's a great word for it, right? Because vision suggests that political theory does both jobs at once. It's about combining that clear-eyed description, seeing the world as it is, with imagination, envisioning the world as it could be.
So what this really means is that political theory has two absolutely essential jobs. First, it helps us make sense of our incredibly messy, complex political world. And second, it gives us the tools to figure out how we should act in that world. It's not just about thinking, it's about understanding and doing. So, how does a political theorist actually do their work? What are their tools? Let's take a look at their unique kind of data, and I'll bet it's not what you're thinking.
This is what's so interesting. A chemist has speakers, right? A sociologist has surveys. But a political theorist's laboratory? Well, it's the world of texts. Their raw material is language itself. It's all about the words, the concepts, the ideas, and the arguments that people have used all through history to try and make sense of politics.
But of course, working with something as slippery and tricky as language, well, that comes with its own set of problems. Let's break down the three big challenges that political theorists are always having to deal with. Okay, first up, it is almost impossible to pull facts and values apart. I mean, just take a simple word like power. You can try to describe it in a neutral way, right? As just the ability to get someone to do something. But the way you define it, the way you even try to measure it, is always totally loaded with your own assumptions about how power should be used. The truth is, nobody is ever really neutral when it comes to power. Second, some of the most important concepts are what the philosopher W.B. Gailey called essentially contested. This is a huge idea. Think about a word like democracy. Is a country democratic if it has elections but doesn't have a free press? See? There's no single correct answer just waiting for us to find it. In a lot of ways, politics is the fight over who gets to define these big, important words.
And the third one, this is the danger of what Max Weber warned against, the fetishism of concepts. And this is basically the mistake we make when we treat abstract ideas like the state or the market as if they're real, solid, unchanging things. We have to remember they're just words. They're analytical tools that help us understand a messy reality. They are not reality itself.
Now, all of these concepts and all of these challenges, they don't just exist in a vacuum. They are part of a long, really complex, and honestly, a deeply contested conversation that's been unfolding for centuries.
And the big questions that people have been asking have really changed over time. You know, back in the classical era, thinkers like Plato and Aristotle were obsessed with the good community. That conversation then evolved in the medieval period when thinkers were trying to figure out the relationship between human law and divine law. Then, fast forward to the modern era, and thinkers had to grapple with this brand new thing, the nation-state and individual rights. And now, today, a lot of contemporary theory is all about critiquing those older universal claims and asking, wait a minute, who got left out of those earlier conversations?
You know, the typical story we tell ourselves about this history, especially the modern part, is a pretty happy one. It's a story of progress, right? Of rights expanding and more people getting included in politics through things like democracy and constitutions. But
That optimistic story, as nice as it sounds, isn't the whole picture. For every step we take towards including more people, critics have pointed out that new divisions pop up and new groups get overlooked. And this tension, right here, is absolutely central to political theory today.
And this exclusion has been incredibly persistent. Thinkers from feminist, anti-colonial, and anti-racist traditions have shown how the so-called great conversation of Western political thought has, for a very long time, basically silenced the voices of women, the poor, indigenous peoples, and racialized groups. It's even ignored the natural environment.
So, this all brings us to the big question, the most important one, really. Why does any of this matter right now in our world today?
Because here's the thing, understanding this long history, both the good parts, the story of inclusion, and the hard parts, the story of exclusion, it's not just some academic game. It is the essential toolkit for being an engaged and effective citizen. It lets us see where our current problems came from and gives us the language to even begin to imagine new solutions.
So political theory, when you get right down to it, is this ongoing, messy, but totally vital conversation about how we should all live together. It's about really grappling with these complicated, contested ideas. And the fact that the conversation is never really over, well, that's exactly what makes it so important.
And that really leaves us with one last thought. This long, historical conversation, it's still happening right now. As brand new challenges pop up and new divisions in society emerge, the real question for all of us is whose ideas, whose arguments, and whose voices are going to be the ones to shape what comes next?